I found out the truth on a Tuesday afternoon. A crumpled hotel receipt buried at the bottom of his gym bag. Room 207. 2 nights. 2 guests. His name, and hers. Amelia. My best friend. I stood there in the middle of our kitchen, staring at the paper as if it might vanish if I just blinked hard enough. But it didn't. And with every second that passed, the weight of betrayal settled deeper into my bones. I'm Lana. 33. A school teacher. A wife. A woman who once believed in loyalty, in friendship, in vows that were meant to be kept. And in one single breath I became a fool. A discarded wife. A broken friend. A woman scorched by 2 people I loved most in this world. Amelia and I had been inseparable for over 20 years. Childhood besties turned bridesmaids. The kind of friendship people envied. She was the one who helped me pick my wedding dress. She cried at my ceremony. She toasted our honeymoon. I used to joke that she knew my husband better than I did. I didn't know the joke was on me. For months they'd been sneaking around. Behind my back. Under my roof. While I cooked them dinner, while I gushed about how lucky I was to have them both. And the worst part? When I confronted him, he didn't even flinch. He said, "It just happened." As if destroying everything we built together was some kind of accident. He told me he never meant for me to find out. That it was a mistake. That he still loved me. But love doesn't lie. Love doesn't cheat. Love doesn't crawl into bed with your best friend and then come home to kiss you like nothing ever happened. And Amelia? She couldn't even look me in the eye. She stood there, shaking, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean to hurt you, Lana. That's the thing about betrayal. It always comes wrapped in the softest words. I packed a bag that night. Not for him. Not for her. But for me. For the version of me that still had dignity left. I left our home, filed for divorce the next morning, and blocked him from my life. But Amelia didn't disappear. 2 weeks later she showed up at my door. Eyes red. Hands trembling. Her face swollen from crying. I left him, she said. I stared at her, cold and quiet. I thought he'd choose me. But he didn't. My stomach twisted. So he tossed her aside too. Lana. I have no one else, she whispered. Please. I need a place to stay. Just for a while. And that's when something inside me clicked. This wasn't just pain anymore. This was purpose. I smiled. I could never turn my back on you, I told her. You're my best friend. She cried again, this time with relief, and stepped into my house, completely unaware she had just walked into the first chapter of her downfall. She unpacked her bags in the guest room. My guest room. Cooked dinner in my kitchen. Laughed too loudly when I told stories. Tried on my old clothes like she belonged in my skin. She thought I'd forgiven her. He thought she was safe. But I wasn't Lana, the quiet wife, anymore. I was Lana, the storm she never saw coming. And I had a front row seat to the show she didn't even know she was starring in. She moved in like a ghost who didn't know she was already dead. At first, Amelia tried to be helpful. She washed the dishes before I asked, offered to cook, cleaned the living room with extra flair, like she was trying to earn her keep, or maybe my forgiveness. I let her feel useful. Safe. Loved even. But what she didn't realize was that every kind gesture she offered felt like a bandage on a wound she'd carved herself. Every smile was a reminder of how easily she'd ripped my life apart. So I kept mine steady. Warm. Believable. I'm just so glad we're okay now, she said one night, pouring us glasses of red wine on the couch. I honestly thought I'd lost you forever. You did. You just don't know it yet. I clinked my glass against hers and said, we all make mistakes. He grinned. You're so strong, Lana. I don't deserve you. Oh, you don't. That night, after she fell asleep in the guest room, I went through her phone. I had made sure to swap out her charger with one of mine that included a remote access chip, something my cousin, who's a programmer, gave me when I told him I was worried Amelia might be seeing someone shady. I didn't tell him she was the shady one. What I found made me nauseous. Amelia wasn't broken. He was planning. Flirty texts to multiple men. Pictures. Some revealing, some disturbing. A conversation thread with a guy named Marcus. Staying with my friend for now. Poor thing still thinks I feel bad. She's so pathetic it's cute. I'll probably milk this a bit longer. Pathetic. Cute. That's what she called me. I didn't cry this time. I smiled. Because now I had what I needed. The next day I asked her to join me for a girls' brunch. My treat. She lit up like a child being handed a lollipop. Let's dress up, I said. Something fancy. Let's feel like queens again. I took her to the same upscale restaurant where she used to bring my husband during their secret trysts. I knew the waitress. I'd seen the receipts on our bank statement back then. My money paying for their dates. As we sat down, Amelia looked around nervously. Isn't this place a little expensive? I smiled. Don't worry about it. It's on me. I ordered champagne. She ordered oysters. He was relaxed. Too relaxed. Halfway through our meal I asked, so what's going on with you and Marcus? She froze. It was the first crack in her polished mask. I tilted my head and added, I saw the messages. And the pictures. You know, the ones you sent from my bathroom mirror. Her face turned a violent shade of white. Her jaw opened but no sound came out. You really thought I wouldn't check? I whispered. You've always underestimated me. She started to stutter, fumbling for excuses, but I didn't let her finish. Relax, I said. I'm not going to throw you out. Relief washed over her face again. Foolish, desperate relief. No, I said. That would be too easy. When we got home I began phase 2. I started leaving things out. A tube of red lipstick on the bathroom counter she hadn't seen before. A tie that clearly wasn't mine tossed on the living room armrest. A deep male voice humming through my phone speaker as I laughed on fake calls. Amelia grew uneasy. One night she asked, Are you seeing someone? I shrugged. Maybe. She gave a little smirk and tried to act unbothered, but I saw it in her eyes. Jealousy. Panic. Amelia never liked to be second place. She stole my husband because she wanted to be me. She moved in because she wanted my life. But the thing about wanting what others have is that it never satisfies you. Because it's never really yours. So I gave her something else. I introduced her to my coworker Brian. Handsome. Successful. Charming. The catch. He was also freshly divorced. Because he cheated on his wife. Repeatedly. I told Amelia he was wealthy. Lonely. Exactly her type. She bit. Within a week she was bragging about their connection. Calling him her soulmate. I knew it was only a matter of time before he did to her what she did to me. And he did. I made sure of it. 2 weeks later I found her crying in the kitchen again. He ghosted me, she sobbed. He used me. I wrapped my arms around her and said, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that. And then as she wept into my shoulder, I whispered into her ear. Actually, maybe you did. He pulled back, stunned. Confused. But I just smiled and walked away. Because that was the beginning of the end for Amelia. And she had no idea how much worse it was going to get. Amelia didn't sleep that night. I could hear her pacing from the hallway, muttering to herself, trying to make sense of what I said. She didn't come out of her room the next morning either. But I wasn't concerned. That was the thing about Amelia. When she couldn't control the situation, she unraveled. And I'd barely started pulling the thread. 2 days later she finally emerged. Nervous. Her hair was disheveled like she hadn't touched it in days, and her eyes darted around the room like they were looking for traps. Lana, she said softly, can we talk? I looked up from my laptop with the calmest smile I could manage. Of course. She sat across from me, wringing her hands. What did you mean the other day, when you said maybe I did deserve it? I closed my laptop. I meant exactly what I said. Lana, I know I messed up. But you said we were okay now. You let me move in. I thought we moved past. You slept with my husband, Amelia. I cut her off, my voice steady, no tremble, no tears. And you didn't just do it once. You built a whole relationship behind my back. Lied to my face. And now you're hurt because a man did to you what you did to me. He blinked, stunned. I let you in because I wanted to see if you were sorry. Truly sorry. But then I read your messages to Marcus. How empathetic. How I still think you feel bad. I laughed bitterly. You haven't changed. You never will. She opened her mouth, maybe to defend herself, maybe to cry again. I didn't care. I stood up. You have 2 weeks to move out. She shot to her feet. Lana, please, where am I supposed to go? You'll figure it out, I said, turning away. For days she begged. Pleaded. Cried. Left me notes on the kitchen table. Even tried to make dinner and leave it waiting for me with little posts like, "Forgive me." But I was done pretending. Meanwhile, I started posting small things online. Pictures of me smiling. Out with friends. A mysterious man's hand in the background. Hints. Suggestions. Nothing direct. Just enough for people to start asking questions. Amelia saw the comments. He saw my new glow. And I knew it was killing her. The final blow came when I got a call from her job. Not mine, hers. Apparently, she used my address as a reference for a promotion and listed me as her emergency contact. Poor thing didn't expect her carefully curated image to crumble when I simply told the truth. No, I wouldn't say she's trustworthy, I told her boss, polite but firm. There's a history. I can't get into it, but I wouldn't recommend her for leadership. That was enough. She lost the promotion. He came home that night furious. Screaming. Accusing me of sabotaging her life. You're the reason I have nothing, she shrieked. I didn't yell back. I just stared at her. Then I walked up, close enough she could feel my breath on her face, and said, "You lost everything the moment you decided to betray me. I just made sure you felt it." She slapped me. Hard. I didn't flinch. I smiled. That made her flinch. She grabbed her things and stormed out, slamming the door behind her like a teenager. It was childish. Pathetic. But also, finally quiet. 3 days passed. Then I saw her again. This time on a dating app profile my friend showed me, laughing hysterically. Amelia was still trying to sell the dream. Pretty filters. Old pictures. The same tired lies. But I had one last card to play. I knew she was still talking to Marcus. So I created a fake profile. A woman prettier than me. Richer. Dangerous looking. I made her Marcus's dream girl. And I made her want Amelia's life. I played the game. Built the character. Gave her a name. I even bought a burner phone to text him directly. He fell for it in a week. And when she found out he was cheating on her, with her, the fantasy crumbled. She called me. Crying again. Screaming. You ruined me. Maybe I had. But I also gave her exactly what she gave me. Now she knows how it feels. To be the joke. To be the broken one. To be betrayed by someone you trusted with your soul. I looked at the phone in my hand and said the only thing that came to mind. Good. Then I blocked her number. I don't know where Amelia is now. Some say she moved back in with her parents. Others say she tried starting over in another city. Honestly, I don't care. She's no longer part of my story. He was just a chapter. A dark, twisted, necessary chapter. And now that chapter is closed. My name is Lana. And this was the story of how my best friend tried to ruin my life. And how I let her think she won. Until she lost everything. Just like I did. Except I came back stronger. He never will. They say healing comes quietly, in moments you don't even notice. Like standing in front of the mirror one morning and realizing you no longer look broken. That day came for me 6 weeks after Amelia walked out of my house for the last time. The air in my apartment was still. Peaceful. No more walking on eggshells, no more pretending. Just me and my silence. And for once it didn't hurt. I sat on my balcony, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise break open the sky like a slow exhale. And that's when it hit me, she was finally gone. Not just from my house. From my heart. From the space she once haunted like a ghost I never invited. Strange the way a wound closes. How one day the bleeding just stops. But don't mistake that peace for weakness. Because deep down I still remembered everything. Every lie. Every whisper behind my back. Every time she looked me in the eye while sleeping with my husband. And speaking of him, Marcus hadn't taken the fallout well either. After I exposed the cheating with my fake profile and ghosted him without a word, he tried crawling back. Classic narcissist. He called. Texted. Left me voicemails that ranged from sobbing apologies to bitter threats. I didn't respond to a single one. And just when I thought it was over, karma worked its magic. A mutual friend told me Marcus lost his job. Turns out, dating someone in his office while married to someone on the company's board wasn't a wise career move. The company found out. Fired him on the spot. He tried moving in with Amelia. But, well, you already know how that ended. After I played them both, they turned on each other like feral animals. She exposed him. He humiliated her. And neither of them came out clean. It was beautiful. I didn't even have to lift a finger. But the best part? I was finally free. Free from pretending to be the perfect wife. Free from years of fake friendship. Free from the guilt they tried to make me carry like I was the one who ruined everything. Well, they did that to themselves. And now they were just names I used to know. Stories I'd someday laugh about with the right people. Speaking of people, there was someone new. I met him by accident, if you believe in accidents. A friend invited me to a book club. I didn't want to go, but something in me whispered, try. And there he was. No games. No lies. Just a man with kind eyes and a quiet way of making me feel seen. We talked about poetry and pain and the strange things people do when they're healing. He never asked me to be less than what I was. And I never pretended to be anything more. It wasn't love yet. But it was something. Hope maybe. Or the beginning of it. One night he asked me what I'd been through. Why I sometimes flinched when the topic of betrayal came up. I didn't cry. I didn't hide. I told him the truth. He listened without interrupting. And when I finished, he said, "You didn't deserve that." Simple words. But they meant more than he knew. Because for the longest time I thought I did. That maybe if I had been prettier, softer, smarter, more patient. But no. I didn't deserve betrayal. They did. And they got it. The poetic thing about revenge is that it's never about destruction. It's about justice. And in my story, justice wasn't fire and fury. It was patience. Silence. Strategy. It was letting them rot in the ruins they built while I rebuilt myself brick by brick. Now I'm standing in a life I created without them. One I'm proud of. And every now and then when I catch my reflection in the mirror, I smile. Not because I've forgotten what they did. But because I survived it. Because I didn't let it turn me into them. Because I won. Not by getting even, but by getting better. And that is the sweetest revenge of all. The first time I bumped into Amelia after everything, it wasn't planned. I was at a cafe, one I hadn't been to in years. I'd gone there on a whim just to grab a latte and read for a bit. I wasn't expecting to see her. But when I turned toward the door, there she was, standing just a few feet away as if the universe couldn't resist one last scene. She looked different. Not in the way people glow after new love or adventure. She looked tired, worn, fragile in a way I had never seen her before. Her once perfect hair hung limp. Her skin, usually so polished, looked pale and hollowed. Her eyes met mine, and for a second, just a second, I saw the old her. The friend I used to trust. The one who used to braid my hair at sleepovers and promise we'd grow old together, still laughing over wine and old memories. But that version of her was long gone. She walked over slowly, uncertain, as if not even sure I'd speak to her. "Lana," she said quietly, voice trembling like the words might break in her throat. I didn't flinch. I didn't smile. I just looked at her. Waiting. He glanced down, then back up. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I am." I could tell those words had been sitting on her tongue for months, too heavy to spit out before. And now that they were finally here, they sounded like pebbles dropped in an ocean. She went on. "Marcus and it wasn't what I thought. He used me. Lied to me. I thought he was leaving you. I didn't." "You did," I cut in calmly. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't care enough about me not to do it." She blinked, stunned by the cold precision of my truth. She wasn't expecting the softness in my tone, wrapped around words so sharp they could slice through steel. "You don't have to forgive me," she whispered. I looked at her. Really looked. She was unraveling right there in front of me. And for a second I almost pitied her. Almost. "I don't," I said simply. "I already forgave myself. That's all that matters now." There was silence between us, the kind that swells when everything important has been said. She didn't ask to be friends again. She didn't beg. She just stood there, shrinking under the weight of her choices, until she turned around and walked away. And that was it. No screaming. No final explosion. Just two people who once loved each other. One who betrayed and one who healed. And healing was winning. Marcus tried once more to reach out after that. Sent flowers. A letter. Even emailed me from a different address, pouring out how miserable he was. How he regretted everything. But I didn't reply. I didn't even open the letter. Because that version of me, the one who needed closure, who needed answers, she didn't exist anymore. I had nothing left to say. That chapter was closed. Burned. Buried. And from its ashes, I had built something far more beautiful. I went back to school. Something I'd been putting off for years. Enrolled in a design program. Started creating again. Interiors, spaces, color stories that made people feel alive. I found myself in the patterns. In the fabrics. In the light. And with each project I stitched myself back together. Piece by piece. Not because I needed to prove anything to Marcus or Amelia. But because I owed it to myself. Attic trips. Short ones at first, then bigger adventures. I started saying yes to life again. Dinner with friends. Late night walks. Dancing in my living room. Laughing until my stomach hurt. There was no grand romance waiting around the corner. No shiny new man to rescue me. But there was peace. A peace I earned. A joy I reclaimed. And for the first time in years I didn't feel like I was performing my life. I was living it. No secrets. No lies. Just me, whole, strong, unafraid. I sometimes wondered what Marcus and Amelia thought when they saw my posts. When they realized I had moved on without them. Thrived without their presence. Blossomed in the very space they tried to shatter. And maybe that was the best revenge of all. Not revenge born of spite, but one born of success. Not fire and fury, but flowers growing through the cracks they left behind. People ask me all the time, how did you do it? How did you survive the double betrayal of your best friend and your husband? How did you hold yourself together when your whole world cracked open? And I always say the same thing. I didn't. Not at first. There were nights I screamed into my pillow until I couldn't breathe. Days when getting out of bed felt like climbing Everest barefoot. Mornings where I stared at the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. I was shattered. Every lie they told was another fracture in my chest. Every whispered conversation, every touch behind my back, every fake smile at the dinner table, it all carved pieces out of me until I was nothing but scraps of the woman I used to be. But the thing about rock bottom? Solid. You can build on it. And I did. One decision at a time. One small, quiet, defiant choice every day, to keep living. To keep showing up for myself even when no one else would. They thought they were my undoing. That their betrayal would ruin me. That I would fall apart and stay there bitter and broken. But I didn't. I let the pain teach me. I let it carve me into something stronger. I found power in solitude. I found clarity in silence. I found grace in the act of simply breathing without needing to explain myself to anyone. And from that stillness I grew. Marcus lost his job a few months after we divorced. Turns out, cheating on your wife with her best friend, and then dumping her, doesn't earn you much sympathy. Especially when you do it loudly and publicly. Amelia moved to another city shortly after. Word got around. People whispered. Her so-called new life never really took off. She drifted from one low-paying job to the next, burning bridges wherever she went. Her name didn't open doors anymore. Meanwhile, I built mine wide open. I launched a design firm with a small team of women who had been through their own heartbreaks. We turned pain into purpose. Created spaces for people starting over. Women leaving bad marriages. Single moms with fresh beginnings. Survivors of every kind. Our motto was simple. If they tried to break you, build something even more beautiful. And we did. We worked late nights. We celebrated the wins. We cried together, laughed together, healed together. It wasn't just work. It was redemption in motion. One day my story was picked up by a popular blog. Then a podcast. Then a feature in a women's magazine. Suddenly my inbox was filled with women from around the world saying, "Thank you. You made me feel seen." And that was the full circle moment. The betrayal that once felt like the end of my life had become the very beginning of something extraordinary. I didn't just survive. I transformed. Not into a new person, but into the woman I was always meant to be before lies and pain tried to silence her. I don't need revenge anymore. Not the dramatic, screaming kind. Because they both did it to themselves. Amelia lost me. Marcus lost everything. But I gained myself. And there is no greater karma than that. So to the woman watching this who's been lied to, cheated on, betrayed by the ones she loved most, let this be your sign. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt. And someday soon you'll look back at the pain and realize it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your becoming. This was Lana's story. And she made it out on the other side. So can you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you felt something in your soul today. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. A new episode drops every day, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. See you in the next story.